Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got a special guest with us this morning, Dave Todd from Basin, Wyoming, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Basin, Wyoming. Okay. Anyway, Bill's not going to be with us today. He's en route back home from Germany, so he was not going to be here today. But the rest of us are here, and Dave is here with us. Has been nice enough to come on and tell us some about his dealings with the railroad. So he and Steve are going to have some things to talk about, I'm sure. But anyway, Steve, why don't you tell us who's here in the chat?
Okay, well, we got Closet Branch. Good morning, Stephen Wigwag. How you doing? John Banichecki, John Tanzillo, Dwight Curley, Lynn McCurdy, Rob T-Man. We got Mark Pruitt. Good morning, Mark.
Oh, man.
Let's see. Randy Dolman, good morning. How are you all doing? Let's see. Did I say Lynn? I did. We got PBR Pathfinder. I forget your first name. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Let's see. I think that's it. And forgive me, guys, if I sound and cough all show. My little kiddos got on the bus on Monday, and Mom says, "Oh yeah, they've been sick for a week, but they got to get back to school." So they got me sick. So hopefully I won't be coughing through the show. But good morning, everybody. I've been looking forward to this show for a while. So,
well, one other thing I wanted to say before we get started, I think most of you already know this, but Art, PDRR engineer, passed away last week.
mm-hmm.
And I know he was a great part of the community. And I think I commented on somebody's tribute video that they did that he was probably the best example of what's good with the community.
Yeah. He commented on everybody.
Yeah.
He was always commenting on my videos. Yeah.
He was always here, in the show. So he's going to be missed for sure. But Art was, as far as I know him, he was a great guy. So
he was. He was definitely the first person that I recognized as someone I could always count on to leave a comment of encouragement and, just making you feel like
most definitely
what I'm doing here is worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah, Art was a good guy.
Yeah, so prayers Art and everybody. He's going to be missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dearly. Anyway, so on we go. Well, this is Dave Todd, was an engineer, I guess, lastly with the BNSF, correct?
Yeah, BNSF, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you, I think you've already told us here, but why don't you tell everybody in chat, how you got started and we'll go from there.
Well, I hired out on the Chicago Northwestern in Des Moines, Iowa, in the shop, and in 1973, and I worked there for a year, and then I took a welding job, and for about a year, and then I went to Alaska. Worked on the Alaska Railroad and out of Anchorage. I was a fireman up there for a year. And then my brother was working for BN and asked me, or told me, he says, why don't you come on down and put your app in? He said, they need engineers really bad. So I did. We were back to Iowa on vacation and flew out to Scotts Bluff. And he picked me up, took me up to Alliance. And so I interviewed there with Bob DeFord. And they hired me, but of course I had to go back to pack up and move and give my 2 weeks notice to Alaska. And but so I went to work on the BN in Casper, and I worked there for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, and got forced to Guernsey on the yard job. And then I got pneumonia in the middle of June, and I was out of service for about 2 weeks, a week and a half, something like that. And by that time, I could hold a job in Alliance, and that's where my brother and my wife were. And so I was in Alliance for about 3.5 years. That's where I got to go into engine service again, and got promoted in '77 was my promotion date. And then I came to Grable, and right at the end of '79, and I've been here ever since. So Grable was reminded me a lot of Alaska. It was it's dark territory. Back then, you went to work, you did your job, nobody harassed you. It was a good job back then. But it slowly, over time, that's what it does.
Yeah, now, a lot of
it
people
changes.
A lot of people here don't know what dark territory is. So
non-signaled.
No, unsignaled, yeah.
Yeah, unsignaled. So, but anyway, that's we lost our trains in '82. They pulled the trains off of the Grayville Casper line in '82, and they were gone for about 2.5 years. And then they brought them back, decided that, yeah, this isn't the right thing to do. And so they brought the trains back, and things were good again. Not quite as good as before, but they were still good. And then they made the run through from Grayville to Casper, Grayville. It was a double-ended pool. And so you shared the work with the Casper crews also. But and that was a pretty good job. I spent about 10 years on that, working to Casper. And, but I tried working locals and yard engines so I could be home and have some time off, regular hours,
Hey, Dave, did you ever get a chance to run any of the old covered wagons?
Up in Alaska, I did, but
Okay.
I never did get to on the BN.
I know BN, a lot of them towards the end.
Yeah. But I never did get to run any Fs on the BN.
Yeah,
wagon.
they were always kind of the steam engines of the diesels. They're the old F, Fs and Es with the old
That's what
I've never been on an E unit. But yeah, of course, when I worked on the Northwestern in the shop, we had a lot of the old Great Western F units and the old NW2 switch engines and but yeah, that was great. And then in Alaska, we had a lot of F units back in '75. I guess I left in '76, May of '76, and I guess it was shortly after that they started trading in the F units on new power. But yeah, I love those old F units. I miss them.
Yeah.
I had a friend that he's passed on, but Bob Vicker, he worked for the CNNW, and he was a road foreman or a traveling engineer, they called him on the CNNW. And I met him when I worked in Alliance. A buddy of mine that I worked with in Alaska came down and started working out of Alliance, and so Bob stopped to visit him. They were friends in Alaska, and so Nick invited me over to meet Bob, and so I ran the Falcon on the simulator that they had, and Bob was one of the instructors in the engineer training center for the Northwestern. So I met him, and just he finally ended up going to work for the Royal Gorge, and so I visited him one time on the way back from Arizona, and I got a cab ride, going through the gorge and all that stuff.
Wow, that'd be cool.
I was able to run one of their engines for a little bit, but that was kind of like old home week. CNNW F units, and it was fun. Yeah, that's the last time I got to run an F unit.
Dave, and I apologize for not putting this in the description, but I was getting asked if you have, they asked first if you're also a modeler, which I told them you were.
Yes.
But I didn't have a link to your YouTube channel. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. Yeah, what is it? Let me see here. I can get back to it.
I know I've got it on mine, but I couldn't remember the name of it, so I couldn't find it.
I'll get back to it.
Now, what railroad do you model, Dave?
Well, I model the Des Moines Central, but that's a fictitious road, but it's based on the old Des Moines and Central Iowa railroad, and it's it's Dave Todd at DMCRY 600.
And Stephen Wigwag Workshop put it up, the link in the chat, so you can go to that and just click on the chat, and you'll be able to get it. You'll click on that link, and you should be able to get it too.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you. But anyway, I don't know where I was at. I had such a good memory.
He was asking you what you modeled.
Oh, okay, yeah. I modeled the Des Moines Central, which is the old Des Moines and Central Iowa, but I bought it and changed the name. But it's based off the old Des Moines and Central Iowa, and I run from Highland Yard, the new Highland Yard, which was really at the CNNW interchange, to Granger, and our biggest customer is Firestone Tire and Rubber, and of course, with model railroad you have to kind of condense and all that stuff, so some things were packed, and I didn't have enough room, so I had a really good sales department that talked a bunch of the old downtown customers into relocating up close to the yard. And so
how big's your layout?
the room is 10 by 32.
Wow.
And it's a 2-level layout, but with a helix. And my plans were originally to have 3 levels. And of course, Mark Pruitt, he keeps telling me that we need to rebuild and add that 3rd unit and move it into the garage and into the dining room.
What are friends for?
Yeah, right. Yeah, help me out a lot.
I think Mark's favorite part of the hobby is moving all over the country and taking his railroad with him.
I think you're right. I'm trying to get him to move to Worland, Wyoming, but
Wow.
he
He's
says
an expert in moving, that's for sure.
Pardon?
I said he's an expert in moving railroads, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, this layout that he's got now this is the most he's ever got done, and so I try to harass him as much as I can and help him out. Showed him how his operating plan was totally false.
It always takes a real engineer to screw up the fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I recognize you from.
Well,
from
he was an engineer and I was an engineer, but we're different engineers.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, did you ever find out when you were working, interesting having to be kind of a closet rail enthusiast and work for the railroad? Because it was taboo to like trains. At least where I ran, you had to not like rail fans, and you didn't.
Oh, really? No,
like,
I didn't have a problem with that. It wasn't until really until I retired. I retired 13 years ago, but about 6 years ago is when I started building my layout, and I finally got a shed built for all my tractor parts and truck parts and car parts and you name it, which filled up my train room. So I really didn't have much of a railroad until about 6 years ago when I started building this layout. And but no, I didn't really have much of a problem with that. You know, I'd always waved at the rail fans and didn't really have an issue that way. But there was quite a few of the guys that I worked with. I got a really good friend lives over in Grable that I worked with, and he said I hated the railroad, but it was a job and I needed the job. So,
well, that's what I found was really funny when I hired out in '77, and at that time you had a lot of old guys. I mean,
yeah,
you know, that ran and fired for steam back
right.
And they railroaders are the biggest bunch of belly achers that you ever seen in your life. They sit and complain, piss and moan about the job. And, you know, I being a new guy, I'd be asking them, well, how long you been here? I've been here 45 years.
Right.
Couldn't be that bad a job, man. You're still here.
Yeah.
Sparky says car and tractor parts don't go in a shed. Trains do. That stuff goes outside.
No.
You have to have priorities, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I tell you.
Well, I think somebody asked you, when did you start building your layout, and how long did it take you to build it?
Well, I started about 6 years ago, I think it was. Well, basically, when I started, I worked on it almost every single day, all that time, and got it to where it is now. Which, there's still a lot of details to add and things to do. I finally just this past couple of weeks, finally got signs made for my industries, a lot of my industries, and some signs to put on the fascia for any operators that might come here and don't know east and west.
Well, I've done more. He says, can you show us the layout? I'd like to see it too.
Yeah, I can do that.
Trying to see what you do.
Well, okay. I need to change cameras again, so if you can bear with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, no problem.
I have the same issues. We were talking about that before the show. That StreamYard, it's a pain in the butt to try to switch cameras.
Mark says he taught you how to make the signs.
Pardon?
Mark says he taught you how to make the signs.
Well, pretty much. Let's see. Now I go to a back-facing camera, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just hit the back. There you go.
All right. Okay. All right. This is my yard. The Highland Yard, new Highland Yard. It's 10 tracks. It's a stub end yard, except for where that caboose is. That's number 2 track, and I have a switch to go into number 1, so I can run around, a train. But so this is my yard, and I have all my car distribution system. Mark doesn't understand it, and so it's kind of hard to explain. But I'll show you here what my car distributor looks like. If you can see that, I use a spinner system.
Oh.
And when I was a kid, I had a 5x9 layout at home, and my dad, we had a few spurs, and my dad says, well, why don't we use a spinner, and that'll determine where each car in your train, is to go. Well, I remembered that, so I brought that back and expanded on it, and but that's how I distribute cars on my layout.
Do you have a video? Do you have a
Do
video explaining? Do you have a video on your channel explaining that system?
No, I don't yet.
No. Okay, cool
I
to
need
put.
to do that because it's quite lengthy. But I'll show you the back 4 tracks, starting here and moving on. That's the Chicago Great Western, the Rock Island, the Fort Dodge, and the C&W transfer tracks. And so I guess you could call that staging, because I stage the cars. I take cars, some cars coming off and on the layout at the start of a day. And so then I make a list of the transfers, and right now I'm showing you a list of the Great Western transfer. And what I do is you can see in the column the kind. A PD is a plug door, a G is gone, covered hopper, oil tank, and a box. And everything else is pretty much, Firestone. But so what I've done is for my spinner system, I've got like the box cars, every industry on my layout that would take box cars. I've got those industries listed. They're on the spinner. And so a box car would be spun with this one. Any propane tank cars like that would be spun on this one. I've got 4 spots that take propane. This one is for reefers and plug door cars, open top hoppers, chemical tanks, flat cars, covered hoppers, oil tanks and GOMs, and then empty boxes. And then over here, I have a spinner. So when a car is empty, because my railroad is mostly inbound loads, except for Firestone, they ship out tires. But so when I get done with a car, and this isn't 100% prototype, but I'll spin it to show me what railroad it goes back to. So at the end, when we get done with the car and bring it back to the yard, it gets spun, and that tells me what transfer it goes to.
Sounds
I'll try
like
to get my finger out of the way.
a board game. Sounds like Sounds like a board game.
Well, yeah, it kind of is, really.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but it works. It works for me. It doesn't work for Mark. But
what does?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah, he told me he was going to really mess with me today, so it's payback time.
That system might be a fun way to get kids involved.
Yeah. Like I say, my dad started me on this, and of course I expanded it by adding, the types of box cars or the types of cars, and putting each industry that'll handle a certain kind of car on a spinner.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Heath's got a really good question for you. How do you remember the results of the spinner?
Okay, that's more paperwork. Well, I don't have that.
Mark says he's being very kind so far.
Yeah, right. What I do is when I spin them to a track, each track in the yard covers a certain area of the railroad. Like 3-track, all of the Firestone cars automatically they switch to 3-track. 4-track is empty right now, but those are all the local cars for the local that goes to Granger. That would include Johnston and Granger and the Milwaukee transfer. 5-track is for industries that are west of Northeast 14th Street. 6-track is for Fort Dodge. The Fort Dodge is the last. The night job pulls the Fort Dodge transfer, and so we have to have a place to put those cars until the night job. So 6-track is for that. 7-track is for the industries up here. I hope I'm not moving too fast.
No, you're fine.
You're doing good.
Okay, this is what I call the hill, but these are industries that I have east of Northeast 14th Street.
It's cool.
And so 7-track is for all those industries. And that's my car shop, and then the diesel shop. Just recently built the diesel shop. Finally got one built. But
what is your era? 60s, 70s?
It's in the 60s. Yeah, it's well, originally I was gonna do early 60s, but I just do 60s now.
Cool.
That way I can have a few different cars and stuff that may have been a little bit later. But
Hey,
anyway,
Dave.
so yeah, I don't know if you can see that. These I just made these thanks to Mark, and so that tells what each track is for. 8-track is for cars for
Okay,
Highland
yeah.
Park.
Hey,
And,
Dave,
yeah,
could you show an example of your paperwork, your card orders?
yeah. Now this is a crossed out deal because I'm done, but this was number 5-track that I just did the other day, and so as you switch out the transfer tracks, I don't know if you're familiar with the term pickling.
No,
I don't know if Steve, are you familiar with that term?
I've never heard that term.
Okay, well, it's a term they used on the BN for when you switched out everything, you had to go pickle, and they would back in the BN days, they had the card system for the computer or the punch cards or whatever, and so they had to go and sort those cards and then put it through the computer to make a list. And but that's basically what I'm doing. I just do it by hand. But as they're switched out, when I get done switching, of course I have the list for the transfer, and that tells where it goes: track 5, track 8, track 4, 3, and so on. And so that tells me when I pull the transfer, that tells me what track it goes to, depending on, what part of the layout. And then, like I say, this would be 5-track, all the cars that went to 5-track during the day. And 5-track was used for the night job to switch industries. They took the inbound cars to the industries during the night so that you could start fresh unloading in the morning.
You generate a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, it is paperwork heavy. But there are things like the Firestone job. I don't keep track of those cars per se. I do have a list at Firestone that I make up that for switching Firestone, but I don't keep track of those cars. Other than that, And of course, I'll spin those cars that when they're empty or, tire cars loaded as to what transfer they go to. But normally I don't keep track of that. And then now this is looking down at Firestone, and that goes into my helix. This part of the layout's my helix.
Allie had a question. Is your track hand laid?
No, it's ME
Okay.
code
Yep.
70, and the most of the industries are code 55. I've got a few Shinohara switches on the downtown area, but everything else is ME number 6.
And Mark wants you to show us those toy engines.
And Heath wants to know how many operators during an op session, and do you need to stage the layout for a session, or does it just keep rolling along?
Well, I stage it. That's what I was telling you. Up at the transfers. At the end of a day, there's 5 jobs total, and at the end of the day, I take certain cars off. Like say the Firestone cars, they stay on the layout all the time, and most everything else comes off. Different box cars, and these toolboxes here are my car storage, and so I swap them out.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but these drawers are, first 4 drawers here are all 40-foot box cars.
Wow, that's awesome.
But
Indeed.
and then I have flats and gons. So I trade them out, and so I stage them that way. But of course, then after I get them on the layout and on the transfer tracks, then I make that list for each transfer, and then I spin it to see where each car is going to go. And then when they get switched out, you switch them according to the transfer list. And then when that's done, then I pickle and make that kind of a list.
Well, Closet says Dave is definitely my hero now, and Heath is saying when I grow up, I want to be like Dave. So
Yeah, but we still haven't seen those toy engines yet.
Oh, well, let's see here. Well, I tell you what, he's something else.
Dave, 6 years ago, Dave, did you start from nothing, or did you have stuff you had collected over the years?
Well, I had a lot of collection,
Okay.
but 6 years ago I started basically from nothing on this layout. I tried O-scale one time, but back then it was $25 for one box car, and all these years later, that's what you pay for an HO car. But
Yeah.
so anyway, I'll try to get one of these engines out here for you. And well, that's not the right one. I wasn't prepared for this, but anyway, sorry about the moving around.
no, you're
And all
fine.
that jazz.
I don't think
I've only thrown up once.
I guess I don't think Dave's seasick yet.
Pardon?
Dennis gets seasick.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's all right.
That's fine. I'm watching on my phone on a much smaller screen, which helps a lot.
Ah. Well, for some reason, this I'm not picking this up. Well, let me see what's going on here. Well, okay, I'll bring out the local. Maybe. I don't know what's going on here.
You're trying to show people, that's why.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Exactly.
The way it works.
Well, now Mark is probably laughing.
He says, running trains live, what could go wrong?
Yeah, right.
Now, is that a little caboose right there?
Yeah, that's
Looks like a bobber.
that's
Yeah.
modeled. No, it's not a bobber.
No?
And don't look at the lettering. That was hand done for Mark.
No.
But that is a representation of one of the DM and CI box or cabooses.
That's the cutest little bay window I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
Very short, very tiny.
Is that where Mark stays when he visits?
Yeah, I put him up in there, Well, I'll see if I can get something to run here. Man, I tell you, I don't know what's going on.
It's called Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. There we go. Okay. All right.
Are you DC?
DCC.
DCC.
Yeah. So I use little Bachmann 70 tonners. The DM and CI, they use the 70 tonners. And so I like the 70 tonners. They're my favorite. And even though they're toys, according to Mark, they're toys. But
I'll tell you, Dave.
I think they'd outpull his steam engines, really. And, the 70 tonner displaced a lot of steam engines back in the day.
Well, I'll tell you, we had a short line on the Santa Fe in the Central Valley that it was the Modesto Empire Traction Company.
Oh,
and
they had a whole fleet.
Oh, yeah. And then when California regulations came in and they had to start getting rid of them, they actually forced them to drill holes through the blocks of the engine so they could never run again.
Well, I heard that story, but they ended up being allowed to sell them. And so most of them went to Canada.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're I don't know how many of them went to Canada. The 600, they kept it for, display purposes or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were several that went to Mobile Grain in Canada.
Okay.
And I think they're still running up there. I know there's some kind of a little tourist line that has one. I can't remember the number offhand, but I don't think they ever really destroyed anything that was running.
Good. That's good.
At the time, they were allowed to sell them, is what I understand. So.
Well, I know they kept them in really nice condition.
Oh, they were pristine.
Oh yeah.
But, so anyway, there's my little toy engines, and as Mark calls them.
He called it a dumpster with a cab.
Pardon?
He called it a dumpster with a cab on it.
Yeah, that's what he told me last night.
So, he said, what's he say here? He says, Dave and I rag each other a lot, but he's one of the best modelers I've ever met.
Oh,
Don't tell him I said that.
He's trying to butter me up for something.
He must need help on his. He wants you to come down and help him.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, he needs a lot of help, really.
Do you run, Dave? Do you run any steam?
No, I don't run steam, but I did. I just recently bought two PFM or United, I guess, 280 consolidation Santa Fe. I had one years ago that belonged to my uncle, and then he gave it or sold it to my brother. My brother sold it to me, and I kicked myself. I ended up trading that to a guy out in California for some O-scale stuff, and I regretted getting rid of that engine. So I just recently bought two of them. The first one I bought needs quite a bit of work, but it was pretty cheap. And as I talk, I'm just going to kind of walk along here and show you the layout. But so I'm going to repower them and get them going so that I can run them on Mark's layout.
Now, how far do you guys live from each other?
Go ahead.
How far do you guys live from each other, you and Mark?
It's about 200 miles.
Yeah.
So he keeps wanting me to come down, but you know, the price of gas nowadays, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, you know.
You have great lighting.
He claims that, you know, a railroad retirement guy like me is so rich.
Well,
but it's not true.
He's for Dave. He says, "What are your thoughts on Mark's layout, and why is the BNSF better than the CB&Q?"
Well, I think Mark has a fantastic layout. Now that I've got him straightened out on the operating part, but no, he's got a fantastic layout, and he's come a long way, and I'm looking forward to the next op session next month to hopefully get down there and, you know, spend a few minutes running, see if I can, you know, mess things up for him. But anyway, you know, he's got a fantastic layout. But what was the next question about BNSF?
I'll have to go back to it.
And why is the BNSF better than the CB&Q?
I don't think it was.
No.
Really, I don't think it was better. The CB&Q, from, you know, what I worked with the old CB&Q guys when I first came to Grable. We still had a lot of old heads that were CB&Q, and they didn't like the BN, and, you know, especially BNSF. But the Q was kind of a family type of railroad. You know, the BN, they were a little less family. However, I enjoyed working for the BN more than I did BNSF, really. And I don't mean to badmouth the Santa Fe, but we ended up getting a lot of junk power off the Santa Fe. I about froze my tail off on a trip to Casper one night.
What kind of power was it that the junk that they were sending you?
SD40s-2s, and
Okay.
they just had so many holes in the cab walls and stuff that you'd freeze to death up here in the wintertime. But yeah, I can remember one trip going to Casper. My conductor, luckily or thankfully, I guess, he had a pair of flight pants. Extra pair of flight pants, and I ended up putting them on. Heaters were going full bore. You just couldn't keep warm.
Did they send you any of the Cal F45s or FP45s? Because those, even in California, the cabs were so big on them that you froze your ass off. You could not get those warm enough in the wintertime.
Well, I don't know about Santa Fe because we didn't get any of the Santa Fe up here. But the old BN, I guess most of them were GN. But I love those things.
Oh, I did too. I liked them in the, you know, when the weather was good.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys probably had air conditioning.
Yeah.
We didn't. And that was one good thing about the BNS, you know, the merge, is we finally got some air conditioned units.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, when
and
I just came back
I
from
think
a
that was
cruise.
all due to the computer stuff on these engines. But
Yeah, they didn't care about the engineer and the crew.
oh no, you could sweat to death.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I just came back from a cruise out of Galveston, and there on the port of Galveston, I've got to stop sometime and count how many old Santa Fe and BNSF locos are parked there, and they're just sitting
wow.
there rusting.
Oh man.
It was incredible. I mean, it looks like a graveyard there of locos, and I mean, they must have several hundred sitting there,
Oh wow.
all nose to tail, just sitting there on the tracks.
Man, oh man, that's sad.
Yeah, it's really astonishing to see that many that close together all in one place like that. And of course,
Right.
that sea air is just going to rust them really quick.
Well,
Oh, you bet.
what I find sad is seeing the deadlines like you're talking about, Claude, with the old unit that we had that in their heyday, they were the pride of the Santa Fe. You know, they
Yeah.
were, and now they're junk. You know, it's like,
Oh yeah, you know, most of those, the trucks you drive by on the road, some of them were close to the road, and the trucks on them were just solid rust.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had no oil on them or anything that you could see. It was just, they were just that rust color red. Wheels, trucks, everything, all the way up to the cabin. Of course, in the cabin, the paint's chipped and peeled, and it's the cabs are rusting, and some of them don't have hoods on the over the engines anymore. And
Oh
yeah,
wow.
it's pretty wild. You'd think they would scrap them if they're going to do that, but just
Right,
let them sit there
right.
and rust away is kind of crazy.
Uh-huh.
You got great lighting on your layout, Dave.
Well, I just in the last few months got new lighting under the the top layer here, and so I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, it looks great.
They are under cabinet lights, and they're LEDs. They're dimmable. They're you can change the color of them, but I really like them. They really helped because I used to have rope and let me get down here where you can see stuff.
I would
But
see
the
it.
rope lights, they helped. They just weren't very good. This helps a whole lot in being able to read numbers and that type of thing.
now, Dave, I got a locomotive question for you. What was your favorite unit to have as a lead? If you could have put one on the point, what was your favorite one to have?
Probably an F unit.
Okay.
Wow. An F unit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love those old F units. They pulled their guts out. They rode pretty good, and they had good heaters. At least the ones on the Northwestern, believe it or not, they had really good heaters.
But they must have been hot in the summertime, though.
Well, actually, they had wing windows like the old cars
Okay.
that you could crank out, and you could get ventilation.
Okay. Yeah.
In those things. I mean, they were still hot. If it was 100 degrees outside, you're still,
Yeah.
you're still going to be hot. But
you got some air.
right, yeah.
Well, is you mentioned that the junk power that Santa Fe sent you were the old SD40-2s. That must have been in the older days, because when we had them on the Santa Fe, that was my preferred unit to have as a lead. They rode great. They pulled good.
Oh yeah, the SD40-2 was a beautiful engine.
Yeah, they were good.
But so anyway, you've seen my layout now.
It's great.
You got any questions about it?
What did you use to make your roads?
It's a foam rubber type stuff.
Okay.
My brother, there again, he's been modeling a lot longer than I have, but he told me about it, and they make gray and black, and it's just a foam.
Right.
But it works
Yeah,
good.
good.
You cut it,
Yeah.
it cuts real super easy, and I like it. But
What do you use to stick it down?
just glue.
Okay.
I think I used white glue or something like that.
And they look good.
Well, thank you.
I like the fences too.
Heath,
Great.
Heath says he had a very important question. What snacks do you provide during an operator session?
Do what? What do I provide?
He wants to know what snacks do you provide during an operating session?
Whatever you need.
Do you have many people come over?
Well, Wyoming doesn't have a whole lot of model railroaders.
Right.
But,
Yeah. You do have some.
we do have some. Once in a while I can get Mark to come loose with some money and drive up here. But of course I don't think he likes riding or running my little toys all that much. I gotta show you guys this. I got a buddy back in Des Moines, Iowa, that he was a truck driver, and then he went into the shop. But he called himself Caputi because a lot of stuff that he did, he claims went to kaput. And so I don't know if you can read the sign, but it's Caputi's Garage, established in 1938. And the reason for that was he had a 38 Ford Deluxe, and I've got a 40 Ford Deluxe, and we build our cars at the same time.
So you're in the cars too.
Yeah, I'm not so much anymore. I still have my 40, but I haven't driven it for a couple of years now. But so we come up with this. We're so good, our customers never return, and so I had to put his little shop on the layout, and of course he's kind of like Mark. He demands. I had to go ahead and put in a lift for him, and I had to provide a bathroom, for him and everything else. So
Yeah.
I tried to meet his needs, but you know how that goes.
Yeah. Some people, huh?
Right.
Well, Mark
And then
says one thing you
total
can't
waste
see
of
here.
space. Pardon?
Mark says one thing you can't see here is how well the layout runs. He said, I've visited a couple famous model railroads around the country, and Dave's is the smoothest running I've ever seen.
Wow.
Well, that's what he's told me. And I'm
I think
glad,
he's
but I
fucking
find
for
it
money.
hard to believe.
And Heath
Fucking
wants
for
to know
money.
why that is.
Well, I guess because I'm such an expert. Anyway, this total waste of space, that Model A and that Mustang, my buddy Gene, he sold his 38 Ford, and he wanted me to get him a Model A. So I found him a 30 Model A up in Cody that was in really nice shape. And so I bought it for him, and it was going to be a couple of months before he could drive out here and get it. And so I put it in my name, and it was sitting in the garage, and my son happened to be home, and he came out there and he looked, and he says, "What a total waste of space." And so it became a fight between them. My son had bought a 68 Mustang that was really junk. I told him, I said, "Don't buy that. It's not worth it." But he bought it anyway. So Gene calls that a waste of space. And so I had to put that on the layout. Just as, I mean, it's a private joke, but
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of neat.
Well, that's one of the fun things about having a layout. You can do stuff like that.
Right.
I know
right.
my layout is going to have, stuff that is appropriate to the family,
Right.
um,
right.
and we'll fit right in on the layout.
Right. If you're interested, this is the local is already made up. The night job builds the local, and so this is a list for the local that I use, and I don't know how steady I'm able to keep it, but with my shaky arms and stuff. But the top part, from the yard down to the end of the line, that would be the train. And so the first car in the train is going to be C&W 612. And that goes to Olson's, which is at Johnston, Iowa. And then the second car would be a Great Western. That goes to the liquor warehouse and so on and so forth. And then I've got a whole bunch for the Milwaukee interchange. And then
Dave.
there's a car downtown in Highland Park that they have to pick up, and it goes from there over to the Milwaukee interchange. And then Johnston, the cars you have to pick up at Johnston would be next on the list. And that's where I spun them. So that's where they go. 74 is the Milwaukee Road. C&W is 77. And then you get to Granger, and that would be all the cars at Granger that you have to work with.
Dave, if
So
you just want
that's
to
my train list and whatnot. That's how I use that.
Dave, do you go through this? Do you go through this process every time you run, even if you're running by yourself?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I keep track of stuff, basically. But I don't. What's not prototype about this is I don't keep track of when a car comes on the layout, say from the Great Western. It doesn't always go back to the Great Western unless it's Great Western car. But so that's the only non-prototype thing about it. Is they might not go to back to the same road that they came in on.
Does the real railroad work like that?
Pretty much. I don't know about today, but back in the day, you were supposed to send the car back empty or whatever back to the same railroad that delivered it, and it would usually have the reverse routing to get back to wherever it was going to go.
Interesting.
Well, I've got a question for Chad because we were so impressed by your layout. We didn't get a chance to talk trains. I think we need to have you back for part 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back again.
Oh man, it's an hour's gone.
Yes.
Oh.
It happens pretty quick when you get into it.
Yeah,
especially if you've got a
apologize
fantastic
for
railroad. Yeah.
No,
I
don't apologize
for taking up so much time.
Nope.
No problem.
Somebody else got to talk, but
That's what it's
That's
all
the point.
about.
That's good. I didn't want to talk too much anyway.
okay.
No, it's good.
Claude was amazingly silent.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You have a great layout. Great layout.
Well, thank you very much.
I hope you do some more updates on your channel.
Yeah,
video.
I'm getting ready to do an update, and boy, that scares people right there.
I think you're going to pick up. I think you're going to pick up a lot of people to your channel.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Just
cool.
because.
That'd be great.
Yeah. You have a great layout.
I
So we
definitely
didn't know about it.
would be really interested in seeing how your railroad operates. That is fascinating to me. So, because I view that as a weakness in what I do. The understanding of how things are supposed to work is always helpful when you're dealing with pretend stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this immensely, and I thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
Nope, wrong
You
one.
betcha. And
Look it up there.
whenever you want me back, just let me know.
Oh, heck yeah. You're welcome anytime.
Definitely have you back, Dave.
All
Thanks
right.
thanks for
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks for coming on, and it was interesting, and I know we've got a lot more to go over, so we will definitely have you back on again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but
Well,
Wigwag, Stephen just put his link up again to his website, so you can go over and check it out and catch a little more of that. And we are up with our hour right now.
Go over, check it out, subscribe to his channel, encourage him to post some more videos.
Yeah.
thank you so much.
And
Thank
one
you very
thing,
much.
we had 37 people in chat, which is a lot for this show. So we did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Mark must have really talked me up or something.
I don't think you need much talking up.
No.
Well, all right. Well, thank you so very much. You're very
All
kind.
righty. Well,
All right.
thank you, Steve and Dennis.
That was great.
And
Everybody
Jerry
have a great week.
and Dave, especially you. And everybody in
Thanks.
chat, you guys have a good rest of the weekend and a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Great show, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Take care. See you.
Thanks.